This is Laura Gibson, and she doesn't know it yet, but she's about to be the catalyst that ignites a cultural flame that is growing bigger to this day. Today's live musical performances are filled with excitement and spectacle. Let's look at the past, present, and future of Tiny Desk to answer the question: how does something so minimal thrive in today's maximalist music industry? It all starts in 2008 with Bob Boilen and Stephen Thompson. They both were enjoying the music at the South by Southwest Music Festival. That's when they went to check out Laura Gibson, a relatively unknown folk artist from Oregon. It was this awful bar, Boylan said. The speaker was pointing out the door, people were watching basketball games and cheering for their teams. Laura had a quiet voice and we could barely hear her at all. That's when Stephen more jokingly said to Gibson, "You should come play at our office in NPR." And 3 weeks later, Gibson shows up at the NPR office. They grab a couple of microphones, mic her up, and a small crowd gathers from the office, and they hear her play a couple of select songs.
Pour me out of on the solemn grave. Tell me the seasons are most.
They put this performance on YouTube, and it's the first Tiny Desk concert. And it's really interesting to see how much hasn't changed from this first performance. NPR is a broadcasting company, and they weren't in a studio. They didn't set up SM57s or Neumann mics like would be typical in a recording studio. They set up mics that they had around, mics that were better suited for broadcasting. It didn't matter what mics they used, as long as it produced a clear and transparent sound. Because the thing that is always at the forefront of Tiny Desk mindset is the music first. It doesn't matter what mics they're using, it doesn't matter about any of that, it's just the music. The music will come through no matter what you use. This first video was not a production. Bob Boilen put up the camera himself, and a few of them set up the microphones. But what became evident to them is no matter what they did, it still was going to be a beautiful performance. When you have an intimate space like this with a songwriter that's writing intimate songs and beautiful music, no matter what you do, no matter the microphone placement, no matter the microphone choice, it's going to sound beautiful. The popularity of Tiny Desk just skyrocketed from there. When you think about live music performances today, I think it's pretty easy to think about the Eras Tour with Taylor Swift, or the tour that Sabrina Carpenter is doing right now. They're the two biggest in the game right now. Both of those shows have big, extravagant sets, pre-recorded tracks, and just overall big budget productions. And I've never been to either of these concerts, but I know from going to concerts myself, the big spectacle, the pyrotechnics, the loud booming subs, it's so fun to be there in a huge arena with thousands of people, all singing the same songs. But with anything popular culture, there's going to be counterculture. It's still always fun to hear a live performer in a bar, or just a live performance in a smaller, more intimate setting. That's why a lot of people like being fans of smaller artists when they perform at smaller venues. But you don't see the likes of Harry Styles, Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish performing at small venues anymore. It just doesn't make any economic sense. If they can sell out an arena, they're going to. It's gonna make them more money, and they're gonna be able to do more stuff in the future. It makes sense. However, I think in recent years there is a little bit more of a disdain with this overproduced spectacle. There's a lot of people with a lot of criticism of modern music, and it's criticism that I understand. Modern music with an over-reliance on technology, technology has been growing at an exponential rate. Ever since the 80s, really, there's been a loud group of people criticizing the digitalness or the inauthenticity that technology in music brings. I think now we're seeing a rise in country and also folk music because of the more recent pushback of modern overproduced electronic music. Now, of course, that music is still being made, and it's music that I absolutely adore, but I also like the small, intimate, singer-songwriter, folky stuff. And I think a lot of people do too, and I think the main thing there is balance. I love listening to some overproduced Charlie XCX Brat stuff, but then I love listening to Noah Kahan when it's just him and his guitar and his songwriting, and it's really transparent and really intimate that way. So that brings us to why I think Tiny Desk seems so refreshing. The whole ideology and philosophy of Tiny Desk is separating all the distractions away from the actual music and the artist creating it. So how do they achieve that? Well, first of all, physical restraints. It's a physically pretty small space, though it has opened up a bit to allow a bigger band. It still is actually his desk. Also, if you notice while watching any of Tiny Desk concerts, they're not wearing in-ear monitors, they're not wearing headphones. The singer is hearing the actual acoustics of the room and the band supporting them, and singing accordingly. That's going to make them sing differently. Also, without music being pumped into your ears, you're going to be more cognizant of contrast and dynamics. So especially with really like emotional music, it's really going to pull that out. More extreme than if it's on a stage where you're just trying to project. That's not the main focus here. Because also remember, behind the camera, there's a group of employees at NPR watching the concerts. They're right there, just feet away from the artist. It brings you back to that small venue idea with smaller artists. But this time, it's big artists like Harry Styles, Billie Eilish. Brings these artists back to a time where maybe they felt more connected with their audience, and also makes the audience feel more connected to the artist. Even people at home watching on video, it feels more intimate and it feels more personal. And that also comes with the artist bantering with their band, and that's a fun dynamic to see. With someone like Harry Styles, you know him as the solo artist, but he does have a rapport with his band. And to build on top of that, Tiny Desk is not just for the biggest names in pop. Tiny Desk shows a very diverse group of people in terms of genre, race, and popularity. There's been a lot of cool artists that I've never heard of that I found through Tiny Desk. They do a lot of concerts, and they really like to highlight really cool people making really cool stuff. It's also a bit of a callback to old-timey jazz clubs or TV performances where it wasn't so overproduced. Maybe it was just one microphone in the center of the room with the band playing around it. The authenticity really comes through to the audience, and audiences like authenticity. Because big productions and spectacle can seem cool, but it can also seem a little bit inauthentic. And a big way that they get that is the mixing mindset and the miking mindset around it. Again, the way that they set up microphones and the choices of microphones are really atypical for a music performance. The iconic microphone associated with the Tiny Desk concerts is the Sennheiser MKH418. It's a stereo shotgun mic. This microphone is typically on the end of a huge boom pole, recording characters' dialogue for film and TV. And because of that, the articulation that you get with a vocal is very clear and detailed, because it's also a shotgun mic, so it has great rejection from anything that's off axis even a little bit. But the biggest thing when miking up a Tiny Desk concert is they like to mic up the room more than individual instruments really. They do close mic a lot of things, but most of it is they're recording the whole room, not necessarily the individual instruments together and mixing them together. As music recording technology has progressed through the years, there's been a lot more instrument independence, and there's been a lot more close miking and getting things super polished and individualized. And it's way more of kind of a retro thing, think 70s, 60s, and 50s, where you're doing a lot more room miking, and especially having everyone in the band together in a room recording. Because now for a lot of, not necessarily live performances, but recorded performances for an album, you have a lot of overdubs, and you're not necessarily playing the whole song all together and recording it in one room. You might even have a horn player record his part in a studio across the country, and the keys player record at his grand piano in his house. Which it's really cool that we can do that, but it's also a really cool sound to have everything together, and they're not playing to a click, they're not even in in-ear monitors. They're playing off of each other, and they can make real-time decisions about things that they're doing. It makes the performance more cohesive. The most important part is they're capturing the performance and the music. The music and performance is first. NPR Tiny Desk concerts really show the talent from a lot of these artists that we might not necessarily see. I know a big one was T-Pain doing a Tiny Desk concert where there was no autotune, barely any effects other than some EQ and maybe slight compression.
Baby girl, what's your name? Let me talk to you, let me buy you a drink.
T-Pain is known for his use of very, very heavy autotune as an effect, but many people didn't realize that he is actually an amazing, beautiful singer and vocalist. And there's been a lot of Tiny Desk concerts from like more EDM or electronic artists that it's been really cool to see how they approach things from a more acoustic side of things. Tiny Desk is a more refreshing yet pretty traditional view on music and music performance. It calls to a lot of ideology about music back in the day, or how music used to be recorded and used to be performed. It's a fun, refreshing take on music performance that is proving to clearly not be a novelty. The unpolishedness, the rawness, the transparency, it feels like the singer and the musician and the band are performing just for you. It's not produced, it's not edited, anything like that. And continuing to collaborate with new upcoming artists as well as the biggest names in pop. It's doing such a service to the music industry and the music community. I want to ask you this, do you remember what was the first Tiny Desk concert that you ever saw? Have you seen a Tiny Desk concert? You have to. And I also want to ask, in a world that is becoming so overproduced and over-reliant on technology, do you think the future is minimalism? Do you think the future is less? Going more into singer-songwriting folk music. Wherever there's culture, there's going to be counterculture. That is just how the world works. Right now, I think we have a pretty good balance. And one last thing I'm going to ask of you is if you could please go into the description, click the link, follow my Instagram. I'm going to be posting a lot of updates about this YouTube channel, about another YouTube channel that I'm planning on starting, and also about my clothing line, Lion Loom. It would mean the world to me if you went and followed that and supported that. It's the easiest way that I can update you on things going on with the YouTube channel and with the clothing brand. And with that being said, I would really appreciate if you liked, comment, and subscribed. The more you comment, the more that YouTube is going to recommend this video. It boosts engagement, it helps a ton. And I always respond to almost any comment that I can. I really love hearing from you guys. If you would like me to talk about something in the future, please let me know. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.